Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely flip how we look at our setbacks. We're digging into a truly powerful presentation from Dr. Tony Rivera. He's the founder of Fostering Minds, and his work is called Failing Forward Faithfully. Through his deeply personal story and a remarkably structured framework, Dr. Rivera offers us a brand new way to understand the hidden system behind growth. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this, because listen, this isn't just about feeling inspired, it's about giving you the actual architectural tools to rebuild after things fall apart.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want to start by asking you a question, and I just want you to hold the answer in your head. What's the absolute worst thing you've ever failed at? Seriously, take a second. Let it surface in your mind. Maybe it was a job you lost, a relationship you poured your heart into that still ended, or maybe just a quiet promise to yourself that you couldn't keep. A moment where you looked in the mirror and thought, man, I should really be further along than this.
Now, keep holding that specific failure in your mind, because right here is the core structural truth of this entire explainer. What if that exact experience you just thought of was actually the most important thing that ever happened to you? And I don't mean that in some cheesy motivational poster kind of way. I'm talking about a real structural truth. As Dr. Rivera so powerfully puts it, that failure wasn't breaking you, it was literally building you. But to really understand how that works, we have to look at the evidence of survival.
Which brings us to our first major section, the weight of failure and the evidence of survival.
You see, Dr. Rivera's insights aren't just pulled from a textbook. They were forged in the fire of his own life, growing up in the foster care system. And we're not talking about the neat, made-for-TV version that wraps up with a happy ending in 60 minutes. We're talking about the raw, exhausting reality of packing his bags over and over again and having to pack himself into whatever he needed to be just to survive in the next house. When you grow up facing that kind of relentless disruption, you instinctively try to make meaning out of it. And for Dr. Rivera, that meaning became a deeply logical lie. I am the problem. Think about it. If people keep leaving and things constantly go wrong, it's so easy to just assume you're the common denominator. It feels logical when you're living it, right? But it's fundamentally untrue. You are not the problem.
And this brilliantly illustrates the pure exhaustion of that reality. Just look at these numbers. 25 placements, 11 schools, 0 stability. Imagine constantly starting over, constantly having to prove you're worthy of staying, always wondering if the next move is already being planned behind your back. By the time he aged out of the system at 19 with just a high school diploma, he was faced with a massive choice. He could either believe the story the system told him, or he could fight for a completely different one.
That leads us right into our next part. Your story is evidence, moving from verdict to process.
Think about how foster care works. Case files document where you slept, what services you received, but they never capture the sheer resilience you built figuring out how to survive. Dr. Rivera calls this the Uncaptured Journey, and it is absolutely the most important evidence we have. Realizing this changes everything about how we view our setbacks. The old mindset paralyzes us, right? It tells us failure is a final verdict, like this permanent stamp on who we are. But the new mindset reveals that failure is actually a process, and just like any process, it can be navigated. In fact, there's this fascinating research in resilient psychology that shows that simply reframing a stressful event as a challenge rather than a threat fundamentally alters your biology. Your blood vessels literally dilate instead of constricting, which optimizes your brain for problem solving. So the question isn't whether you're going to fail, the question is whether you have a system for what happens after you fail.
So how do we actually start documenting this process? Well, Dr. Rivera gives us 3 incredibly actionable ways to capture our imperfect journeys today. First up, simply write down today's date and write one single thing you survived this week. Second, record a voice memo on your phone telling your younger self what you know now. And third, find just one person and tell them one true thing about the weight you carry. Doing this, bearing witness to your own story, turns it from something that happened to you into something that happened for you.
This brings us to the architecture of setbacks and the 3P advantage. So, the crucial point is, every setback has a hidden architecture.
Seriously, every disappointment, every moment of I have no idea how I'm going to survive this, actually has a structure underneath it. If we can learn to read that architecture, we stop being victims of our circumstances and we start becoming students of them. To help us navigate this, Dr. Rivera introduces a highly practical, repeatable framework grounded in psychology, personal experience, and faith. He calls it the 3P advantage. It totally changes how you relate to hard things, and it's broken down into 3 distinct stages: prime, pivot, and prepare.
Let's map out exactly how these stages work sequentially. Step 1, prime, is what happens inside you before the storm hits.
Step 2, pivot, is all about what you do inside during the storm. And step 3, prepare, is what you extract after the storm has passed so you're even stronger for the next one. Let's break each of these down a bit more.
The first step is prime. This is your mental conditioning before the challenge even arrives. See, most of us wait until we're smack in the middle of a crisis to figure out how we feel, which means we're reacting instead of responding. Priming asks you, what do I need to believe about myself to walk into this situation with strength? For a 15-year-old Dr. Rivera, walking into yet another strange group home, his anchor was simply repeating, I am stronger than I know. That's cognitive rehearsal. It's activating a growth mindset before your circumstances even have a chance to threaten it.
The second step is pivot. Now, when things go wrong, our brains usually jump straight to blame. It's their fault, or shame, it's my fault. And both of those are total dead ends. Pivoting offers this brilliant third option, meaning-making. It's actively rejecting both blame and shame and instead asking, what is this moment trying to teach me? It's asking what you can learn right here, in this mess, that you couldn't have learned any other way.
To really anchor this concept of the pivot, Dr. Rivera references Viktor Frankl, who famously said, the last human freedom, the ability to choose your response. Pivoting is exactly how you exercise that profound human freedom in real time. It's an act of surrender, honestly. It's realizing you don't actually have to fully understand why something happened in order to find your way through it.
The final step is prepare. And this is the one we skip the most. After something hard happens, we just want to move on and forget it ever occurred. But if you don't extract the lesson, you literally forfeit the investment of all that pain. Preparing asks, what have I gained from this that I didn't have before? For Dr. Rivera, aging out of the system meant cataloging his strengths, like his uncanny survival ability to read a room in seconds and to adapt to absolutely anyone. Those survival skills become incredible strengths when you finally name them and carry them forward.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because these 3 Ps aren't just a one-and-done checklist. They form a continuous, repeatable, and renewable cycle. Life isn't just going to hand you one challenge and stop. It gives you an entire series of them. And every single time you intentionally move through prime, pivot, and prepare, you come out with more capacity than you went in with. It's resilience by design.
All right, let's jump to actionable takeaways and making it practice. Time to get this out of theory.
We need to transition this from a nice philosophy into your daily practice. I want you to think right now about a setback you're currently navigating, something where you feel totally stuck. The beauty of this framework is that you can actively apply it today. Try this routine. First, a morning prime. Take just 2 minutes before the noise of the day starts for one affirmation or prayer to ground yourself. Second, a midday pivot. When things inevitably go sideways, intentionally pause before reacting and ask, what is this teaching me? Finally, an evening prepare. Before your day ends, name exactly one thing you gained today, not what you lost, what you gained.
Zooming out for this next section, the ripple effect and social infrastructure.
The impact of this framework goes so much further than just our individual lives. Honestly, failing forward faithfully is not self-help. It's social infrastructure. When we start practicing this, it fundamentally alters the environment around us. Imagine teaching this to a teenager in foster care who genuinely thinks they're the problem, or a school counselor equipping a struggling student, or leaders building an organizational culture that treats failure as data rather than defeat. When we process setbacks with intention, we change outcomes for everyone we touch. We stop hiding from failure and start learning from it, together.
And that brings us to our final, most powerful takeaway. Whatever failure you thought of at the very beginning of this explainer, whatever heavy burden you are carrying right now, I want you to really hear this. You are never failing. You are being formed. Every hard thing you've ever walked through has shaped a stronger, more capable version of you. So take this framework, look at your setbacks through a totally new lens, and go fail forward faithfully. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. So the next time everything falls apart, what are you going to build with the pieces?